All right, here we go.
I'm a little giggly right now.
Hey, y'all, welcome back to the Landscapes and Legacies. I am Tiffany.
And I'm Rob. And today's episode is all about leadership. Not the kind you learn in some class, but out in the field and in the thick of it.
In the thick of it. These are 4 real lessons landscaping has taught us about leadership. Some came easy, most came hard. Lesson number 1, know your numbers and know your people. I used to think that leadership was mostly about managing people, but honestly, if you don't know your numbers, your people are flying blind, shooting from the hip. And if you only know your numbers and not your people, you'll lose the culture before you even notice. You gotta have both, the spreadsheets and the relationships. Rob, when did you first realize that knowing the numbers wasn't just for the office, it was essential for leading people?
All right, so I would probably say once I first saw all of the data consolidated all together in one place, and I had this thought as we talk about a lot of this stuff. I feel like a lot of what we say kind of sounds like we're advertising for Aspire.
It does.
Not that that's a bad thing, but truthfully, when I was able to see everything all together up front on a job, things like the total estimated hours for the project, the different aspects of the project. So many hours that you have. Kind of for just the irrigation, so many for the plants and the trees, so many for the sod installation. Just being as transparent as possible with the team about what we have ahead of us so that the goals and the expectations are clear from top to bottom. Not to mention the data that you see post-project completion, things like how many hours were spent just on driving to and from a project. All of this information is really helpful for just keeping your eye on the ball from beginning to end and really maintaining the most efficient pace of a project with your crew.
Do you remember when we used to have to handwrite how many hours they have per job on their written work order?
Sometimes I think of that in like almost nostalgically, like even just when I was running irrigation repair jobs and I had the paper work orders and I had to write okay, I got here at 8:02 and I used this, and this, and then I did this and I left at 9:17.
Yeah.
That was...
Well, then it just puts all the work onto me. So
I'm sorry about that.
It's okay. It's fine. Lesson number 2. Leadership isn't about knowing it all. It's about asking better questions. One of the biggest myths in leadership, especially in the skilled trades, is that the belief that we're supposed to have all the answers. Like, if you're the boss, you better know what to do, right? Obviously. Rob, do you remember a time when you caught yourself trying to solve everything and it just backfired or slowed down everybody else in your team?
Oh gosh. Yeah, this one's not even that long ago. We had some staff turnover in our division that really felt like, just a couple of heavy blows all at one time to the team. And that transitional time of trying to get multiple positions that, these positions dealing with very different aspects of the mission, getting them all up to speed all at the same time and as fast as I could,
simultaneously.
Yes. And I feel like I ended up just trying to fill in a lot of the gaps because, it just seemed like that was easier. It was easier for me to just, let me just do it rather than, okay, I'm going to have to explain this and then explain it again and again. And really the short term, that was the easy way out. And the backfire on that really is that I was preventing the growth the team really needed. Like, these individuals were totally capable of learning these different aspects of it. And I was essentially denying them that by just, let me just do it myself. It took me kind of overwhelming myself in that situation where I was kind of finally pushed to really just okay, I have to get this done. I have to get these guys up to speed to get things back on track. And you actually helped me out with this tremendously. I remember actually coming to you and being like, I need your help. I need your help filling in some of the gaps here. And it just goes back to trusting and delegating and really needing to face it head on, rather than prolonging something that ultimately needs to happen. Remember, I actually just brought that up, the cows and the buffaloes, just run right into the storm, get it over with.
Yes. No, actually, repeat that story. That's such a good story.
And I don't know who said it.
I don't know if it's a story.
And if it's even real, but I just liked it. The cows versus the buffaloes. When a storm is coming, the cows they'll both sense the storm coming. The cow's reaction is to run away from the storm. So they take off running, get away, lay back down, start to relax, kind of forget the storm is there. But essentially that storm just keeps coming. They do the same thing, get up, keep running away, lay down, kind of forget the storm's coming. It comes back and catches up to them always. The buffalo, they sense that storm and they run head on into the storm. And so they deal with it, but really they shorten the amount of time that they're having to deal with it because they're taking it head on, going through it, opposite direction that the storm's going, and then they get on the other side of it much quicker and they're done with it.
Yep.
So
rather than moving around all the time. Yeah, I love that analogy. What I found is the most impactful leaders are the ones who stop telling and start asking, because when you ask the right questions, you invite ownership.
I like this a lot. I agree completely. As I've started to trust more in my team, those that have, especially those in the team that have like asked to take on more, this really has been my strategy, really encouraging them to trust themselves. And that's kind of how I do it. That strategy of like, oh, what do I do in this situation? Well, what do you think you should do? What do you think is the best move here? It's really the strategy that a lot of my leaders have used to really pull the ownership out of me over the situations.
Yeah, and that's actually right now I'm working on my homework with Growth Bridge, and one of the questions are like, what are 5 habits that you wish you had, or like 5 habits that you wish you didn't have, or it basically tries to break down your growth plan, right? And like one of the things that I said that I want to get better at is asking questions to like help others gain leadership, right, rather than telling.
Right. I think that you're good at that. Like I said, like I'm saying like, oh, my leaders did this. I'm talking about you.
Yeah. But I know, but that's thank you. Appreciate that, because it is intentional, but I also recognize I need to do it more.
Yeah.
And it's not always easy.
No.
Right?
No. In intentional change, it can be, but it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, and that's not the point, right? The 3 questions that we ask in our one-on-one, I wanted to highlight that real quick.
Yep.
So we ask always 3 questions. It's what should I start doing? What should I keep doing? And what should I stop doing?
Mm-hmm.
And for instance, when we have our one-on-ones,
right,
you're giving that feedback to me directly as like a manager, or like sometimes we'll do it like the 3, like me, Adam, and Jordan.
Right. I always struggle with those. I struggle with them. Like, I don't know. I just feel like I'm very, this sounds terrible when I say it out loud, but I'm very like professionally like self-centered. I'm constantly judging myself. Like when it comes to the critiquing part, like I'm judging myself much more so than I'm like, oh, I hate that you do this, or that you need to start doing this, or stop.
I know better.
Yeah. And so I really struggle with those. I trust a lot in my leadership. And so for me, I struggle answering those questions a lot of the times. And a lot of the times, or the answers that I have for them are like very like, let's just keep doing what we're doing because it's working. Start doing, sir. Stop doing, not sure.
Lesson number 3, you can't expect others to execute what you haven't modeled. Okay, so lesson 3 hits hard because you can't expect people to do what you haven't shown them. I know, like for me in the office, I've done pretty much every part of the office, like literally answering the phones, all the builder portals, scheduling stuff or permits, all of it.
Yeah, I remember in particular when you were doing all of the permitting for the builders and I first started to kind of take over that process. I had just the fun part in the beginning, like I was just doing the drawings. And then you were like, all right, dude, like you have to, there's a whole other part of this process that needs to be done. It's not just like drawing out flower beds. You sat me down, you ran me through the various portals and you showed me your process. And then you were like, all right, you've got this. And going from that, I know that I tripped a little along the way. I remember in particular, I actually had COVID at this time. I was at home.
Oh my gosh.
And I had to like Zoom meet you and be like, dude, I can't remember how to do the shit for Kyle. And you were like, okay, let's just do it. Let's run it through it really quick. Shared screens. We did one. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to do this next one. Just watch me, make sure I did it right. Okay, cool. We're good. But, and that's going to happen. But going from that to like, I remember also when we were first installing one of the warehouses out in Hutto, and I was like, it's a commercial permit. Is there something different? And you were like, I don't know. You're going to have to figure it out. And I was like, okay. So, registering in that city, pulling the first commercial irrigation permit, like I had never done it before. Everything went smooth. It was good. I just needed to trust myself. But you had shown me a system. I was able to maintain the system. And then, eventually, as time went on, pass that on to somebody else.
Don't remind me. Yeah. I forgot about you having COVID. I remember that phone call though.
That was great.
But seriously, that's why I can teach someone else now, because I've lived it. And I'm not just handing it off and being like, like, I couldn't figure it out. Here you go.
Right. Like, I've
Fix
never done
it.
this. Do it.
Yeah. I mean, there's a time and a place, I think, for that, but not in my opinion.
Right.
And that's why, like, for instance, the implementation of any new software, for the most part, I have my hands in. You know, I don't, for instance, like the software for the vending machine, I don't really care for that.
I know.
But
I like to know where the keys are. But same on the field side. Like, I've done the backflow testing. I've done irrigation repairs. For our builder installs, I used to be out there on every single one, hand flagging each thing, hand painting tree locations and bed locations. That, which was awesome. I do miss that some days, because it really just made you like intimate with every single one that was going on. But, you know, we eventually converted that into creating digital plans that really consolidated the process of designing and the permitting and all of that being like top to bottom as built, coming out pretty accurate, and being left at the job site. You know, it freed up a ton of drive time. That was great.
Oh, yeah.
That was a big positive off of that. But yeah.
I mean, like our crews drive time, their crew time is.
I was talking more about mine.
Yeah, I know, but the crews are 30%. Like, golly, like, do you imagine like what your drive time was?
God, at that time, it was, if I was clocked in for 10 hours, it was probably 9.5. No, I'm just kidding. It was a lot, you know, especially like when we were like, at that time, we were still very, very like builder focused, it felt like. And so we were expanding, blowing up, getting more neighborhoods. And then it was like, kind of like, geez, okay, today I've got to go to San Marcos, then I've got to go to Marble Falls, then I've got to, you know, Dripping Springs, and this homeowner is over here in Liberty Hill, but they're not going to be available until 2.
Lord.
And it was just like all around the world, you know?
Dispatching is not as easy as everybody thinks.
No, especially like,
even if you're dispatching for yourself.
Right.
Not, let alone like numerous people.
No, and I'm talking about those, and those places, like the locations geographically, like really become challenging, especially, you know, with all of the growth in the Austin area.
Yeah.
Going from here to Liberty Hill used to be like 20 minutes. Now it's 30, 35, you know? And so
that's taking the toll.
Right. And I'm talking about having to like drive an hour to San Marcos and then an hour from there to Marble Falls.
Oh gosh.
I mean, it was just
Fast
like, there wasn't enough time in the day.
No, there wasn't.
There never is.
No, there isn't. That's number 4. Takes. Own them fast and loud. Okay, so this one's big because really when you screw up, you need to own it and you need to do it fast. Don't hide it. Don't spin it. Don't sprinkle it with some other bullshit. just say it.
And mistakes are going to happen. That's just life. And you got to, I think the important thing too, is you have to give your team the space to be able to make mistakes, you know, because that's also where some important learning happens. And I think that making sure that they are aware that it is okay to make mistakes, it really just like giving them the space to the environment to trust themselves and trust that if they do make a mistake, it's okay. Let's figure it out, figure out what happened, figure out how we solve it. No big deal. I'm not pointing at you. Yeah. But, you know, it's part of the process and we got to keep it moving. But especially in our world where mistakes can snowball quick, you know, one missed detail on a PO or an install and suddenly it's like, why is this crew sitting here with nothing to do? Or, hey, I've got to buy a whole bunch of material and it's not on here. What's going on?
Or when the customer is calling, asking where we are, and it's not on schedule.
What street?
Yeah. What house? Well, same. What I've learned is, you know, if you speak up first, if you own up before, like, the customer says anything, before anybody starts pointing fingers and saying whose fault it is, you change the tone because you're taking responsibility and control over the situation.
Yeah, you control the tone. Yeah, people respect it way more when you say, hey, I dropped the ball, here's what I'm doing to fix it, instead of playing kind of like the blame game or brushing it off and kind of being vague about it. The solution is way more important than whose fault it actually is.
Right, exactly. Yeah, don't come with me with a problem. Come with me with the problem and your solution.
Right.
Or what you think the solution would be. I know that we've had a couple of moments where you've come to me and been like, I messed up.
I don't know if you're talking about
what it was.
I do, or at least I have one in mind, and I was questioning if I should bring it up or not because it is like traumatizing to me, but it was a big permitting issue.
Yes, that's right.
I want to say it was like Leander because there was
something with the portal.
It was like a bunch of different things that all mixed together into a bomb.
Yeah.
And you know, I had somebody that was handling some of the data entry portion of it that wasn't really happening. The portal in some of that time was like going through some updates until it wasn't fully functioning, but it all caught up and was like, hey, you've got like a ton of permits that you need to like bring like you need to reconcile.
Yeah.
And I was just like, holy crap. I remember coming in here and sitting and being like, look, this is what's going on. I'm already in the process of fixing it, but I just needed to like essentially like tell you that it was going on. And you were like, I didn't even think I was necessarily coming in for help, because I remember you being like, all right, well, it's okay.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're handling it. You've got a plan. Take care of it. And I was just like,
yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I think that obvious, and I think that situation, like, I know that was tough for you. And I remember being there or in my position, I was like, oh shit, like what happened?
Yeah.
And after, you know, of course, like for you, it's like worst case scenario and you're like trembling because it's snowballing, right? And, you know, for me as your like manager, was just kind of like, he hasn't handled. Like, that's awesome. Like, I don't need to step in and, like, do damage control.
Yeah, and I mean, I even think that, like, your reaction or, like, your interaction with me at that time, it's exactly what I'm talking about, like, your team knows that they have the space to make the mistakes and to grow and to learn and to figure things out, and just be able to trust yourself. And it's really, like, reinforcing and reassuring, honestly.
Yeah, that's where the growth happens, right? You kind of have to mess up.
No, and, like, looking back, in the moment, I mean, I feel like a tear came out of my eye when I told you, because I was just like so disappointed. I was disappointed in the situation. I was kind of overwhelmed by it. But looking back, it's kind of funny, and I'm super familiar with everybody in the city of Leander now.
Yeah, right. Shit, where were we?
Second blue.
Oh, we've had time. Yeah, exactly. We've had times where we've made some real messes, missed some timelines, misquoted jobs, communication fails, and honestly, every time we just get real about it, people appreciate it more.
Right. Whether it's the customer side or the team side, that you know, people appreciate it more. Even internally, like we're saying, that the team doesn't expect us to be perfect. Sometimes they do, but they do watch how we handle being wrong and handle kind of speed bumps. And if we act like it's no big deal or try to hide it, then they'll end up doing the same thing whenever it comes up in their kind of day to day.
Yeah, and that's how things get toxic real quick.
Yeah.
It's not the mistake, it's really how you respond to it that's the standard. The whole it's not what you said, it's how you said it mentality.
Right.
And I know everyone hates that saying, but
I love it.
It's so true.
Yeah. I mean, communication is key. You know, it seems like it's such a basic thing to kind of like always repeat, but it really communication is key, you know, and be the first one to call it out. Like we said, you know, be the first one to call it out and the first one to fix it. Come at you. Hey, this is the problem. This is the solution. And we'll get to the other side of it. You know, that's leadership.
Yeah. Well, that's our top 4. But honestly, there's probably a lot more, that we could probably share maybe in future episodes.
If you've got your own field leadership lessons that you've learned, send them to us. We'd love to feature your stories in some future episodes. Any horror stories you might have.
Yeah, we could probably swap horror stories together. But don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, share the episode with your friends or someone else that's trying to grow their leadership game in the green industry. Thank you for listening.
Thanks for joining us.
See you next time.